The room went silent before the music even faded. Crystal lights hung like frozen rain above a sea of tuxedos and bright gowns. Cameras from every table swung toward the stage as the master of ceremonies raised his hand for quiet. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice warm and heavy with suspense, "please welcome the new Chief Executive Officer of Umoja Global, Ms. Amara Okafor Johnson." 100 heads turned at once to the red carpet walkway where a woman in a sleek black gown stepped forward, chin steady, eyes bright. She moved with calm, unhurried confidence. On her left wrist, a slim gold bangle caught a beam of light. Her hair was gathered in a low, neat bun. She smiled, not wide, not proud, just sure. At table 3, Victor Cole's smirk collapsed. His champagne flute paused in midair. He had invited his ex-wife to this gala to humiliate her, to make her sit under the glow of ceiling lights as he thanked the little people and announced a new era that did not include her. He had planned the camera angles, the jokes he would throw, the false kindness he would display. He had personally approved the guest list, so she would be placed at a table far from the stage, near the kitchen doors, where servers came and went with plates and never looked up. But the room began to rise, chairs rubbing against carpet, applause rolling like thunder moving closer to shore. People he knew, donors, partners, even board members, clapped with the excitement that comes when power changes hands, when a story turns. A tall board director slid past Victor without looking at him and joined the line forming near the steps to the stage. When the director reached the stairs, he turned to the cameras with a practiced smile and extended his hand toward the woman in the black gown. Victor found his voice. "No," he whispered. The word felt small, like a pebble dropped into a river. He cleared his throat and stood so fast his chair stuttered backward. His cufflinks, shaped like steel knots, glinted as he set down the glass and tugged at his jacket. He tried to laugh, like this was some joke. But no one joined him. Amara climbed the steps. The woman who once placed a hand on Victor's chest in their small apartment kitchen and said, "I believe in you," now took center stage without him, without his permission, without his script. The MC stepped back. Amara took the glass lectern with both hands, steady as a metronome. She looked across the crowd. She saw names. She saw faces. She saw a wall of cameras pointed at her like the open mouths of a choir waiting to sing. "Good evening," she said, voice clear, calm. "Thank you for your faith in this company, and in the people who build it every day." Victor pushed past a cluster of donors and moved toward the stage. "Excuse me," he hissed at a security guard. "There's been a mistake." Amara's eyes slid once, slow as a second hand. They found him. Their eyes met. She did not look away. She did not blink. Then she turned back to the microphone. "My name is Amara Okafor Johnson," she said. "I started at Umoja in a shared cubicle, taking notes no one read. I leave tonight, holding your trust. I promise you this, what I couldn't fix from the back desk, I will fix from the front." The applause rose again, strong and steady, lifting like a song sung by people who know the words. Victor felt it in his ribs. He looked toward the head table for the chairman, Mr. Baylor, white hair, honest eyes, and found him already watching Amara with a look that mixed relief and pride. Victor lifted a hand, half wave, half warning. "Stop this," he said to no one in particular. "Stop it now." Amara placed her palms flat on the glass. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "We will build in Atlanta," she said, "and in Lagos, and in every city where our teams stand ready. We will not grow by cutting to the bone. We will grow by building muscle and trust." Victor forced a smile like an actor who had forgotten his line. He climbed the first step. The head of security moved, firm but not rough. "Back on the floor, sir," he said. Victor stared at the man as if this were a strange language. "I'm Victor Cole," he said. "I have led this company for 3 years." His teeth showed. It wasn't a smile. "That woman is my ex-wife." The security man's eyes did not change. "And she is the CEO," he said. "Step down, please." Cameras found Victor now. They loved an old story with a new twist. They loved the fall. The master of ceremonies stood a little to the side, hands folded, the way a man folds his hands at church when a testimony turns real. Amara took a breath. "Some of you know me as a former operations director," she said. "Some of you know me as a consultant who went away and came back. Some of you, like Mr. Cole, know me as something else." She let that hang, light as smoke, heavy as truth. "But all of you will know me as the person who will not let this company break the people who carry it." She smiled. The cameras liked this shot. The calm leader, the steady shoulders, the eyes that have walked through fire and did not run. The audience did too. Victor stepped down from the stair and stopped. He looked left, looked right, then passed the stage to the giant screens on the wall. He reached into his pocket and pressed the smooth edge of a small black device with his thumb. His jaw set. Then he smiled. Before the smile could spread, the chairman rose and moved toward the stage to stand behind Amara, hand on the shoulder of her strength. Victor watched, heat rising beneath the careful gel of his hair. He wanted to shout. He wanted to crush the microphone under his palm like a silver can. He wanted to remind everyone that this was his gala. Instead, the room watched a woman in a black gown claim a company with her name and her work. And Victor felt the story slipping away from him like a rope burning through his hands. The applause, the calm voice, the sudden truth. That was the peak. Now comes how they got here. It did not begin in a ballroom. It began in a room no bigger than a bus stop shelter, on a block on the south side of Atlanta, where summer heat pooled in the cracks of the sidewalk and buzzed like neon. When Victor and Amara married, they had 2 tools between them: a notebook with a list of dreams and a work ethic that could cut through metal. They painted their 1-bedroom apartment themselves, rolling slow stripes of pale yellow across cracked walls. He dreamed of owning something bigger than a single store. She dreamed of building systems that worked like a heartbeat, steady, reliable, strong. Umoja Global was a logistics company then. Not a giant, but not a child either. It moved medicine, books, and farm equipment between warehouses near the port of Savannah and small hubs in West Africa. It took hope, put it in a box, and shipped it carefully. Victor got in as a sales lead with a talent for telling stories that made numbers look like sunsets. He could talk value so clearly that clients would lean back in their chairs and say, "Where do I sign?" He wore sharp suits even when they could not afford them, believing the fabric would teach his life how to fit better. He had a smile that opened doors and a hunger that did not go away. Amara joined an operations team because she liked to fix things. The first time she walked into a warehouse, she felt an old peace. Rows and rows of boxes, labels that meant something if you took time to learn them. Forklifts moving like slow animals. She brought a clipboard and left with a map in her head. Where he charmed, she planned. Where he sped, she controlled timing. Where he imagined, she built. They worked late and ate jollof rice from the restaurant downstairs. She liked extra pepper. He liked the way the owner called him my chairman when he tipped big. In those days, they believed the same thing. Hard work could be a bridge over any river. Then came Lagos. Umoja had been growing in the U.S., but to anchor Africa, the board needed someone who could see both sides, the order of a Georgia warehouse and the rush of a Papa Port traffic where trucks stacked like dominoes. Amara put her hand up before anyone asked for volunteers. "I'll go," she said. "Let me build it right." Victor laughed. "You hate long flights." "I love results," she said. In Lagos, everything was louder and closer, like life had turned up the volume. The traffic at dawn was a river of engines and horns. Men in high-visibility vests rolled pallets under the sun. Women selling cold sachet water raised their voices over the wind. Amara stood at the edge of a loading bay and mapped the entire plot like a chessboard. She hired local. She listened first. She learned the names of supervisors and their kids. She listened to a woman named Tinny who had worked the night shift for years and knew which forklift engines ran hot and which drivers forgot their lunch. With a small team and a bigger budget, Amara set up the routing board, trained dispatchers to watch weather and road closures, and built a clean room for temperature-sensitive healthcare shipments. She slept 5 hours a night and woke before birds. Victor visited twice. He liked the city, the music that slipped from open doors, the energy like a drum. But he liked the attention more. Clients in Lagos wanted to meet the American visionary. Photographers liked his suits. Journalists liked his quotes. He began to believe his own press. When the Lagos hub hit its first big target, cutting delivery times by 30%, Amara sent a report. Victor presented it at a board meeting with his name on the first slide. She called him that night. "You forgot to put my team on the deck," she said. "You forgot my name." He laughed in that careful way that means don't make a fuss. "We're a unit, Mara," he said. "What's mine is yours." "But the credit matters to my people," she said. "They need to see themselves." "I'll send a note," he promised. "Don't worry." He sent no note. Small cracks appear long before a wall falls. He stopped asking for her advice when charm could get him further than truth. She learned to stop expecting the apology that never came. He took the late board dinners that stretched past midnight. She took the 6 a.m. calls with Lagos when the sky was just a soft, slow blue. By the third year, the distance between them was not miles or time zones. It was choices. When trouble came to Umoja, it wore a friendly face. A big client's contract was up. Victor pushed for terms so sweet, the board leaned forward as if drawn by sugar. On paper, it looked like a gift. In real life, it locked the company into penalties and delivery promises built on dreams rather than trucks. Amara warned him. "Our fleet isn't ready for this," she said. "We need more drivers and cold storage units. We need better port access. We need to invest before we promise." He tapped the contract and smiled. "We'll land the bird and build the runway while it's rolling." She stared at him. "That's how planes crash." The board voted with Victor. He had the room's heart. She had its caution. The contract was signed. The press release went out with his name big. At first, the numbers sang. Then a port delay in Savannah pushed 3 shipments back. A customs strike near Lagos slowed everything to a crawl. Refrigerated units failed during the hottest week in August. A batch of medicine spoiled. The penalties woke up, hungry and sharp. The company bled money like a cut that won't close. Over that long season, Amara held the operation together with her hands and her voice. She negotiated disputes in accents that matched the room. She wrote training guides and slept in conference chairs. She visited drivers' spouses when a truck flipped in bad rain. She cried in the shower where the water hid the sound. Victor gave interviews that framed the problems as temporary turbulence, and each time he smiled, the light hit his teeth like confidence. In the worst week, they fought in their kitchen. He accused her of not supporting him. She accused him of loving praise more than proof. He said she was jealous. She asked, jealous of what? He said she didn't understand how leadership worked. She said leadership was not a mirror or a megaphone, it was a circle of hands lifting weight together. They stopped speaking 2 days later. They signed divorce papers 2 months after that. People expected Amara to leave the company. She didn't. She moved to a small consulting firm she had quietly founded with 2 colleagues. Within 6 months, the board, tired of penalties, tired of patches, tired of feeling like passengers in a car speeding toward a cliff, brought her back. Not in the open, not with a parade. They asked her to audit Umoja in silence from the outside. Show us every leak, every loose bolt, every way to save this boat. She did. The audit was hard to read and harder to accept. She named problems without naming enemies, traced failures without hunting heads. She recommended investments that would hurt now and heal later. The board took the plan, voted in a quiet room, and began the change. Victor felt power tilt. He tightened his grip. He cut staff rather than fix systems. He raised his voice in meetings the way some men raise it at home. The board listened, nodded, and then hired Amara again, this time as interim COO with a mandate written so clear a child could follow it. When the numbers improved, Victor claimed it was his pressure. When the contracts stabilized, he said the wind had shifted. When an Atlanta community group thanked Umoja for hiring from their neighborhood, he smiled for the camera and squeezed the leader's shoulder in a friendly way. Then came the board vote. Quiet, secret, final. It happened at noon on a Wednesday, with one empty chair at the long table because Victor was stuck in traffic. The vote replaced the CEO. The letter said, "Thank you for your service." The severance package was generous as the board could be to a man they needed to go. A non-disparagement clause. A non-compete. Lines and lines of calm sentences. The board's next step was the bold one. Offer the CEO role to the woman who had already been doing much of the work. The woman who would not call it bold but simply necessary. The woman who had promised not to break the people who carried the company. She did not say yes at once. She asked for terms that protected workers and gave warehouses breathing room. She asked for a plan to expand apprenticeships in Atlanta and in Lagos so young people could learn logistics that paid well. She asked for open books with the board every quarter so no one could hide trouble in a drawer. The board said yes. Victor did not know. He thought he had one last night to shine. He thought he could stand on that stage at the Umoja Gala, the one he had shaped into a mirror for his pride, and honor a few people with smooth phrases before announcing a transition plan that would keep him in the center of the picture even as he left the frame. He thought he would invite Amara and place her where the cameras would catch her face when he thanked her for her small, steady service. He thought he would hold the power of giving and taking honor. He never imagined the woman in the black gown would be walking toward the stage as its new owner. Back on the stage, the sound of applause thinned to a warm hush. Amara rested 2 fingers on the lectern, the way a pianist rests them on wood before a song. She glanced at the screens that showed her face from different angles. She remembered the small warehouse in Lagos, the smell of diesel and heat, the way Tenny's laugh had cut through a bad day. "This company," she said, "is built on the backs and brains of people whose names we do not put on pamphlets. We will change that. We will honor them. We will grow with them." The chairman smiled behind her. The head of HR nodded. A young intern near the back wiped tears with the back of her wrist. Then the giant screens flickered. It was a small flicker at first, the kind that comes when a cable wiggles or a hand brushes a button. But then the Umoja logo shrank to a corner and a new image replaced it. An email. The address bar showed Amara's name. The subject line read, "Permit processing, discretionary funds." The timestamp was from last month. A second screen lit up with a bank transfer screenshot, a wire from an account labeled A. Okafor Johnson Consulting to an agency officer in Lagos. The figure was large enough to make the room go still. A third image appeared, a crude montage of text messages that looked like her words approving facilitation to speed up government paperwork. Gasps moved through the hall like wind across tall grass. The chairman stepped forward. The head of security spoke into his sleeve. Cameras shifted from admiration to hunger, the way they always do. Victor stood at the bottom of the stairs, hands folded before him like a humble man at a wedding, and watched with eyes that finally felt alive again. His smile returned, slow and clean. He touched the inside of his pocket where the small black device sat, screen dark now that its work was done. Amara did not move. She looked at the screens once, eyes clear as glass. She looked at the crowd. She looked at Victor. 2 uniformed officers in dark suits and badges moved through the side aisle with quiet steps. A woman with a tablet whispered to the chairman, who frowned hard, then glanced at Amara with a question on his face that leaders hate to ask. "Is this true?" Amara lifted the microphone, body straight. Her voice sounded the same, clean and calm. "Those images are false," she said, "fabricated to shame me and to stop a change that needed to happen." A man in a gray suit near the front stood and shouted, "Then why do they look so real?" The officers reached the base of the stage. One of them called her name softly, as if asking a child to come inside because rain had started. "Ms. Okafor Johnson," he said, holding up a folded document. "We have a warrant to ask you some questions about alleged bribery involving foreign officials." The crowd sucked in its breath and held it. The chairman took half a step toward the mic and stopped. The master of ceremonies looked like he might faint. Amara's gaze did not waver. She turned from the officers to Victor, and in that second her look said everything they both already knew. He lifted his chin. The officer reached up toward the stage as if to help her down, respectful and careful. The lights dimmed for a second, then flared bright again. The emails stayed on the screens, ugly and loud. A camera flashed. Somewhere at the back, a glass fell and broke. Amara's fingers tightened on the lectern. "Before I go anywhere," she said, voice steady, I need the board to hear one name and check one timestamp. She opened her mouth to speak it. The room leaned forward like a single body, and from the balcony came a voice that cut through the gold and the noise like a blade. Don't say a word, Amara. We both know who really signed those transfers. Every head swung upward as the spotlight found the balcony rail, and the face it lit made even Victor's smile fall away. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The spotlight held like a finger on the page. Then the woman at the balcony rail stepped into full view, resting both palms on the brass edge as if steadying the whole room. It was Nia Parker. Some remembered her as the quiet compliance manager who never raised her voice but always raised the right questions. Others remembered she'd left Umoja 6 months ago after a disagreement that never made the papers. She wore a simple navy dress and a lanyard with a card the cameras could not read. Her natural hair was pulled into a high puff. Her face was calm in the white circle of light. Those transfers weren't authorized by Ms. Okafor Johnson, Nia said, voice clear enough to cut through the speakers without a microphone. They were built from a cloned device and a stolen token. And the upload of those proof screenshots tonight came from a private hotspot linked to a number in this room. Heads snapped toward Victor before they could help it. His smile faltered. He took one step backward, then caught himself and let out a small, dry laugh. "Security," the chairman called, turning from the stage. "Please escort Ms. Parker downstairs." "No," Amara said softly into the microphone. The single word settled the crowd. "Let her speak." The two officers at the stage edge hesitated. The one holding the folded document looked up at Nia and then at the chairman. In a moment that would be replayed on 1,000 phones, he lowered his hand. Nia lifted a black tablet and tapped once. The screens behind Amara flickered again, pushing aside the fake emails to show a clean, white window with a simple graph of logins and IP addresses. A red dot blinked at 7:12 p.m., less than an hour before the gala began. Next to it, a device ID, an LTE hotspot, and the last 4 digits of a phone number the executive floor knew well. Victor's jaw tightened. "This is theater," he said, louder, trying to make the mic pick up his sound even from the floor. "This is a jealous ex-employee and a CEO in a borrowed dress." Nia didn't look at him. "Zoom," she said, and the red dot expanded. The hotspot name read VC Guest. The carrier line showed Cole Enterprises corporate account. A ripple passed through the room. The board chair's eyes cooled. The head of security turned his chin slightly toward his team. Victor straightened. "Anyone could rename a device," he said, hands lifting as if the logic were air he could spread around himself. "Anyone could spoof a—" "True," Nia said, "which is why I traced the SIM registration and the MAC address, both tied back to a purchase last month, a pocket transmitter ordered to your penthouse and signed for by your assistant, Celine." A camera found Celine at a side table. She folded her hands in her lap and stared at the cloth as if it had answers written on it. The officer at the stage unfolded his paper again with a soft snap. "Ms. Okafor Johnson," he began. "Before you continue," Nia said, "please check the warrant's origin. The case number resolves to a task force number that doesn't exist." She looked calmly down at the officers. "You were sent by someone claiming to be from the State Bureau. That call came from a spoofed switchboard. You'll find the caller ID was patched through an app registered to a shell company, Blue Granite Partners." Amara's eyes sharpened. Blue Granite. She knew that name. It had floated around invoices a year ago like a harmless fly. It had never landed long enough for her to swat it. The officer holding the paper frowned, pulling a phone from his pocket with his free hand. He quietly texted a number. The phone buzzed back almost immediately. His eyes widened a millimeter. He tilted the paper toward his partner, then toward the chairman, then tucked it away. "Ma'am," he said to Amara, "we won't be taking you anywhere. Not tonight." A sigh ran through the crowd, part relief, part confusion. The MC grabbed the edge of a table to steady himself. A reporter near the back raised a phone higher and whispered to it like it was a friend. Victor's smile died and flared again, weak. "This is ridiculous," he said. "Anyone can make a graph. Anyone can build a story from dots." "Which is how you've lived," Nia said. She turned the tablet again. "But data doesn't lie if you don't show it only the parts you like. Blue Granite Partners is a shell set up 2 days after the board first hired Ms. Okafor Johnson's consulting firm. It invoiced Umoja for strategic facilitation through 3 small agencies overseas. The bank receiving the biggest of the fake bribery wires, look here, routes to a holding account in Delaware. The beneficial owner's name is Darius Cole." Gasps again. Some in the front row looked at Victor as if seeing a stranger sit down in a seat where their friend used to be. "My cousin," Victor said, attempting a chuckle. "You think please." "He incorporated Blue Granite with an attorney who works down the hall from your office," Nia continued, unflustered. "You don't know him well. I recall you saying in deposition last year. Strange that he appears whenever you need a shadow." The chairman turned slowly to Victor. In his eyes, years of trust balancing on a pin. Victor spread his hands. "I have nothing to hide." "Then give them your phone," Nia said. "Now." Silence weighs more in a room that big. Victor glanced at the device in his pocket, a small black rectangle with a tiny switch under his thumb. He could feel the raised edge like a tooth. He did not move. The head of security moved instead. 2 guards, big men in plain suits, closed from behind the guests at table 3, gentle but hard as river stones. Victor lifted the device and tried a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Gentlemen," he said, "we are all friends here. This is a gala." "It's also a crime scene," Nia said softly. "Or an attempted one." He pressed the switch. On the giant screens, another window slammed over the graphs. A new set of messages and transfers crawled in bold letters, time-stamped just minutes earlier, as if Amara had been sending wires while standing on stage. A few people gasped as if the floor had tilted. The chairman turned to Amara again, eyes searching. The MC muttered, "What?" Nia didn't flinch. "I was hoping you'd do that," she said. "You just triggered your own audit. Watch." She tapped the tablet twice. The new images stuttered. The timestamps in their top corners froze and then spun backward like a clock in an old movie. The location tags changed. Once, twice. Finally snapping to a coordinate that was not this hotel, not close. A map appeared. A blinking dot on a dark road near Hapeville, where a rented panel van sat with its engine off and its windows blacked. Next to the van icon, an IMEI number tied to a relay device, and a second phone number, a backup that belonged to Celine. Celine let out a small sound and covered her mouth too late. "Ms. Parker," the officer said, the respect in his voice now plain. "Who are you working with?" Nia lowered her eyes to the lanyard. Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Cyber Unit, she said. I left Umoja because I was asked to consult on a case that intersects with your former CEO's habits. Victor barked a laugh. Former? The chairman's jaw flexed. He didn't answer. And the warrant? The MC whispered into the mic without meaning to. Real agents are on their way, Nia said. Your men were tricked with a fake paper from a fake number. They did their job as best they could with what they had. The officer nodded once, shame and relief fighting in his face. He stepped back. On the screen, the map view zoomed. A second dot arrived near the van. The label read GBI 10. The room watched as if they could open the van with their eyes. The screen went black before anyone could see more. Victor shifted, his smile gone entirely now. This is a circus, he said. He turned his face to the nearest camera. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the woman on that stage. She has had a personal vendetta against me for years. Ask yourself why the person claiming to save your company just happens to have a government badge. Because law cares less about speeches than systems, Nia said. And she built them. You broke them. He glanced toward the side exit, calculating. The guards closer now. The room no longer his. Amara had not moved through all of this. She stood with her hands lightly on the glass as if on a railing above water. When she finally spoke, her voice was no louder than before. Nia, she said. Thank you. Nia inclined her head once, not a bow so much as the nod of one soldier to another across a field. Amara turned to the crowd. This is what happens when a company forgets who it is, she said. When image becomes more important than impact. When one person thinks his smile is a strategy and his charm is a plan. We fix this by telling the truth all the way through. The cameras loved that line. They loved the quiet force of it, but the story wasn't done turning. From a side door near the catering corridor, a young man in a waiter's jacket stepped into the light, balancing a tray of empty glasses. He had the face of a person who hadn't slept, eyes rimmed with red, a mouth pressed too tight. Amara's breath caught before anyone else noticed him. Chidi, she whispered, so softly only the microphone heard. Heads turned as if moved by a single wind. The young man froze, tray trembling. Nia looked from the tablet to the man, then to Amara. Is that? My brother, Amara said. Chidi swallowed. The tray shook. A glass slid and clinked. He set the tray on the nearest table with shaking hands and raised both palms, fingers spread. I didn't mean... He started, voice thin. Nia's eyes narrowed, gentle and sharp at once. Chidi Okafor, she said quietly. We need to talk about your badge access 2 nights ago, and a login from a cafe near the old warehouse, one that used your sister's retired token. Chidi's lips trembled. I had debt, he whispered to Amara, not to Nia. School, Mom's clinic bill. They said it was just a test. They said it wasn't real money. They said... His throat closed. He looked at Victor blindly, as if drawn by a gravity he didn't understand. Victor took one step toward him, and in that small step, you could see every charm he had ever used on people who needed something. Chidi, he said softly, finally finding the tone he kept for interns and cameras. No one here wants to hurt you. Tell them what Ms. Parker asked you to do. Tell them how she tricked you. Chidi stared at him like a child stares at a magician after the trick turns bitter. He shook his head once, twice. "She didn't trick me," he said. "You did?" The room exhaled as a unit. Even the chandelier seemed to hum. Nia spoke carefully, voice as steady as a doctor's hand. "Chidi, did someone ask you to copy your sister's old credential from her laptop and hand it over? Did they meet you behind the loading dock and tell you it was a simulation to test Umoja's defenses?" He nodded, tears ringing his eyes. "They said it was a drill. They gave me a card for blue granite. They said I'd get a bonus when the company thanked them for finding the hole." A woman near the back covered her mouth with her fingers. The chairman made a sound like a man who had just seen his home's foundation bend. "Who met you?" Nia asked. Chidi closed his eyes. "Celine first," he said. "Then a man in a cap, holding a clipboard with the Umoja logo. But the logo wasn't right. The letters were too thin." He opened his eyes and looked at Victor again. "Then you. In the car. You said you were proud of me for wanting to help. You said family of leaders should learn leadership." Victor went very still. "That is a lie," he said, but it sounded like he didn't believe himself. "That is enough," the chairman said, for the first time letting his voice carry iron. He turned to the head of security. "Take Mr. Cole to a private room and hold him there until the state agents arrive. Take Ms. Celine as well." He looked at Victor, sadness and anger walking side by side in his face. "If this is all a misunderstanding, we will clear it tonight." Victor's eyes flicked around the room for allies and found fewer than he had counted on. He didn't go quietly. He jerked his arm from the guard's hand and sent one last glare toward the stage. "Enjoy your crown," he said to Amara, bitterness coiling around the words. "It won't fit for long." They moved him toward the side door. Cameras tracked him like birds tracking a storm. Nia lowered her tablet, but she didn't relax. She kept her eyes on the screens like a pilot on instruments in bad weather. "Check the van again," she murmured to someone on her hidden earpiece. "Confirm the relay. Confirm—" She stopped. On the screens, the map view returned on its own, unprompted. The single van icon multiplied into 3. The labels flickered and then died. For a moment the screen showed static. A dozen thin gray lines like rain. Then another image shoved itself to the front. A live feed from a warehouse camera in Lagos. The floor flooded with white light. A stack of pallets toppled in slow motion. An alarm strobed in the corner of the frame. A text overlay bled into the bottom of the image, in the flat voice of an automated system. Root board, override, hub logo S01 emergency shutdown. Initiated source, admin, Okafor J. The crowd's brief peace collapsed. The old suspicion that had been soothed by Nia's evidence snapped awake like a dog hearing a step on the porch. "Shut it down," Nia said into her mic. "Now. This is the failover we warned them about." She looked up at Amara, and for the first time that night her calm cracked to show urgency underneath. "He's not done," she said. "The story isn't just here. He built a second switch in Lagos in case we blocked him in Atlanta. He's trying to make the board fire you before you finish your first sentence." Amara's hands tightened. "Tenny," she whispered. The night supervisor who could hold a whole hub together with a whistle and a list. "Try Tenny's number." Nia nodded and spoke rapid into the mic. Patch me to Lagos, not the front desk. Give me Tenny, or Chief Bio on security. Anyone who can pull the breakers manually. The officer who had stood with the fake warrant looked helplessly at the screens. The chairman's mouth was a hard line. A board member in a green dress stepped forward and pressed a phone into Amara's hand. "Call who you trust," she said. Amara dialed. The ring seemed to take a year, another. Then Tenny's voice flooded the small speaker like home. "Auntie Amara?" "Tenny?" "Listen," Amara said, all her calm pouring into the words. "This is a command from me. Shut down the main server. Do it by hand. Pull the red lever on the left of the rack, then hit the orange kill switch. Count to 10. Bring it back up on local only. Do not accept any remote commands, even if they look like they come from me." "Yes, Ma," Tenny said. You could hear movement, running feet, the quick breaths of someone doing two things at once. "We saw the light change. We knew something was wrong. Chief is already at the cage. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Good. It is dark. We are bringing it back on. Local only, like you say." On the screens, the flashing text hesitated. The words, "Admin, Okafor J," stuttered and then vanished. The camera feed steadied. Men in vests stood hands on knees, catching breath. A woman laughed, a wild, relieved laugh that turned to a sob. A cheer broke from somewhere near the back of the ballroom and ran forward like a wave. People clapped without being told to. Some stood and whooped. Some just closed their eyes and lowered their heads. The chairman came forward and put his hand on Amara's shoulder the way a father might, respectful and proud and grateful all at once. He leaned toward the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, and his voice wasn't for donors or cameras anymore, but for the people who unloaded trucks at 4 a.m., and for the young man at the side door whose heart was pounding holes in his shirt, and for the woman on the balcony who had given back their night. "I think we have found our leader." The applause rose again, but it wasn't the wild kind born of spectacle. It was the steady kind a city makes when the lights come back on after a storm. Victor's voice still managed to find a way in from the corridor, sharp and small. "It's not over," he shouted. "You don't know where the last key is." Nia's head tilted slightly, listening to her earpiece. Her face changed, a shadow like a cloud passing over a field. She looked at Amara. "Say it," Amara said, even though she knew she would not like it. Nia spoke softly into the mic she wore clipped at her collarbone, so softly only the first row could hear, and yet somehow the whole room felt it. "Blue granite wasn't the only shell," she said. "There is a second path. The signature on the Lagos override wasn't your current key. It was your retired one, and it was activated inside this hotel 10 minutes ago." A hush fell that sounded like fear learning a new name. The guards turned in slow circles, scanning faces that had been smiling a minute before. Nia's eyes moved from table to table and then fixed on the catering corridor, where a shadow shifted behind the frosted glass as if someone had paused too long. "Chidi," she said gently, "you weren't the only one they reached, were you?" Chidi lowered his head, shame washing over him in a visible wave. Tears spilled. "They said if I didn't help again, Mom's clinic would lose the grant," he whispered. "They said someone else would do it anyway. They said—" "Who?" Nia asked, eyes on the glass. Chidi lifted one shaky finger toward the corridor. A figure stepped out. For a second, the mind refused to match the face to the name, because something in the heart did not want it to be true. The woman wore a tailored black suit, not a gown. Her heels did not click on the floor. They landed like decisions. Her hair was smooth, her gaze calm. She wore a board pin on her lapel. Gloria Mensah, head of the audit committee, stepped into the light and smiled a precise smile. "Congratulations, Amara," she said, voice mild, as if offering a toast. "You were always going to win tonight. I just needed you to win on the right leash." Nia's hand moved toward her earpiece. The guards inched forward. Gloria lifted a small silver remote, the twin of the one Victor had used, only cleaner, with a different symbol near the switch. "Careful," she said. "I am very tired of men being the only ones blamed for smart plans. Let's be honest, shall we? You and I both know Umoja needed a purge. I chose a faster way." "By burning our name?" Amara asked, voice still soft. "By cleaning it," Gloria said. "Sometimes the stain has to bleed before it heals." "Blue granite is yours," Nia said, not asking. Gloria's smile widened by a hair. "Blue granite is everyone's who has ever wanted this company to stop pretending goodness is enough. Do you know how many bribes our competitors pay to move medicine through ports? I chose a method that looked like a bribe and functioned like a test. If you were who I hoped you were, you'd survive it and take the seat. If not, well, better to break quickly than rot slowly." "You used my brother," Amara said, pain under the even tone. "You used the men and women in Lagos as pieces. You put their jobs in danger to prove you can play chess." Gloria's eyes flicked to Chidi without interest. "He was convenient." She lifted the remote slightly. "And before security takes another heroic step, know this. One press will flood your screens with a year of fakes so precise your best technicians will need a year to unwind them. The board will panic. The markets will punish you. Tonight's clean ending will vanish." Nia didn't look at the remote. She watched Gloria's eyes for the tiny flicker people show before they choose a path. "Why tell us?" she asked. "Why step into the light now?" "Because I want a deal," Gloria said simply. "You keep your crown, Amara. I keep my seat. The company loses a finger, not an arm. We say Victor ran a small scheme with an outside vendor. He leaves. We cut blue granite loose. And you never speak my name outside this room. Or," she tilted the remote, "we dance." The board members looked like people who wake to find water at their door. The chairman swallowed. Amara didn't look at the board. She didn't look at the cameras. She looked at her brother, who stared at the floor, and then at Nia, whose face was calm in the way of a person who knows both choices lead through pain. She lifted the microphone one more time. "Gloria," she said, the name like a small bell in a big church. "When I was in Lagos and the power cut, the men on night shift kept the medicine cold by standing in the freezer with the door cracked, taking turns so none of them would fall. They didn't ask for a deal with the power company. They didn't ask to be thanked on stage. They did what was right because people's lives were in those boxes. Tonight, their lives are here too, in our choices." Gloria's eyes flickered for the first time. "So here is my answer," Amara said, and though her voice stayed gentle, something hard entered it, something like flint. "We don't make deals with those who break us in the dark and call it strategy. We make a record. We show our people the whole truth. We let the law do its work, and we hold steady through the storm." Gloria's smile vanished. Her thumb found the switch. Nia moved. In the single step before anyone else could move, Nia reached behind her back, snapped open a small jammer the size of a wallet, and thrust it forward. The device hummed, a sound you felt more than heard, tiny and focused like a needle. The chandelier light trembled. The remote in Gloria's hand blinked twice and went dead. Gloria stared at it, shock breaking through the careful mask. "Signal jammed," Nia said, breath even. "Old trick, still works." Gloria didn't drop the remote. She looked up, eyes sharp now, and for the first time that night she raised her voice. "You still don't understand," she said. "You are playing kindness in a room built on power." She took a step backward toward the catering corridor. 2 guards moved to block the way. From the balcony, a second voice rang out. Male this time, accented, urgent. "Ms. Parker, look to your left." A server near the wall lifted a tray. Too late, the cameras caught the shape under the napkin. Another transmitter, already blinking. The tray tipped. The signal light flashed green. On the giant screens, a new window surged up like a wave, dark and wide. The ballroom held its breath as a single line typed itself across the center of the screens, letter by letter, slow and terrible. Archive release, 61 files. Owner, Amara Okafor Johnson. Receiver, world. The last letter hadn't even finished printing before people began to shout. And that is where the room stood, under the lights between truth and a flood, as the night turned again. The room erupted into chaos. The word world blinked like a curse on the screen, the white letters pulsing brighter and faster as the system began counting down from 60 seconds. Phones came out. People shouted, and the hum of panic filled the grand ballroom like 1,000 bees trapped under glass. "Stop it!" the chairman shouted. "Cut the feed! Cut it now!" Technicians ran to the control booth near the side wall, their jackets flapping as they yanked out cables and unplugged systems, but the countdown didn't stop. 50 seconds, the screen read. Amara stood frozen, her fingers gripping the edge of the lectern until her knuckles turned pale against her dark skin. Nia Parker's calm cracked for the first time. Her voice trembled with urgency as she shouted into her earpiece, "Kill the network ports, now! Bypass the local control!" "It's not just local," said the tech director, a young man with dreadlocks half undone, sweat beading on his forehead. "The command is routing through a global relay. Even if we cut power here, it'll push the data live from mirrored servers. Someone cloned the entire system." Gloria's laughter echoed through the panic. "You wanted the truth, Amara," she said, stepping back from the security guards as though the entire room belonged to her. "Now the world will have it. All your company's secrets, every deal, every payroll, every correspondence, out there, for everyone." Amara's heart raced, but her voice came low and even. "Gloria, you think this hurts me, but it destroys thousands of employees, families who depend on this company." Gloria tilted her head. "Collateral, dear. Every revolution demands a cost." 40 seconds. Nia turned to Amara, her eyes fierce. "The only way to stop it is to authenticate the main relay with your biometric ID. It's the same failsafe you built when you designed the compliance firewall 2 years ago. You can override the signal manually, but only from the internal network core, downstairs in the data vault." Amara nodded without hesitation. "Then that's where I'm going." The chairman tried to stop her. "No, security first. We'll call in backup." But Amara was already moving, her gown sweeping behind her like smoke as she headed toward the side door. Nia caught up and fell in step, pressing a small communication device into Amara's hand. "Stay in my ear. I'll guide you. You've got 30 seconds. They ran down the narrow service corridor, shoes clattering against the polished tiles. The sound of the ballroom faded behind them, replaced by the echo of their breath and the distant hum of servers underground. 20 seconds, Nia's voice crackled. You'll reach a reinforced glass door. Your old Palm ID still works. Don't hesitate. Amara's chest burned, but she pushed forward. The lights overhead flickered red from the emergency mode. As she reached the data vault, the biometric scanner flashed. She slammed her palm against it, praying it would still recognize her. Access granted. The door slid open with a hiss. Cold air rushed out, carrying the metallic scent of electricity and ozone. Rows of humming servers stretched into the dark like pillars of silver light. The countdown echoed from every screen. 10 seconds. Amara sprinted to the central console, pulled off the protective cover, and inserted her company ID. Her voice trembled as she spoke into the mic. Override protocol. Amara Okafor Johnson, employee ID 001A. Execute fail-safe shutdown on external mirror routes. The screen asked, confirm with retina scan. She leaned in. A beam of blue light swept across her eye. 5 seconds. A line of code flickered across the screen. Authorization accepted. Then, darkness. The lights blinked once, then steadied. The countdown froze at 2. The word "canceled" appeared in bold green letters. Back upstairs, the ballroom lights flickered back on. The massive screens went blank, then displayed a single message: system restored, data safe. A collective sigh filled the hall. Some people clapped. Some fell back in their chairs, shaking their heads in disbelief. But Nia's earpiece crackled with a new alert. She frowned. No, that's impossible. What is it? The chairman asked. Someone else accessed the backup node before Amara shut it down. There's a duplicate server, one not listed in Umoja's registry. It's pushing data through a hidden pipeline. Gloria smiled faintly. You can't stop an idea, she said. At that moment, Amara's voice came over the loudspeaker from downstairs. Not if I can help it. Nia turned to the control board and pressed the intercom. You're still in? Yes, Amara said. Her breathing was heavy but steady. I can see the rogue server route. Gloria used a backdoor hidden in the corporate audit system. It's not just data, it's encrypted messages between her and Victor. She wanted to bury her own involvement. The ballroom gasped. Gloria's face drained of color. You have no proof, she said, but her voice shook now. Oh, I do, Amara replied. And I'm broadcasting it right back to the screens you tried to use against me. The lights dimmed again. The screens flashed to life, this time showing real evidence. A series of messages scrolled across. Victor. If we push the fake bribe files through Lagos, she'll lose the board. Gloria. Do it. I'll handle the warrants. The new CEO seat will still be mine through the board. Victor. And Blue Granite? Gloria. Burn it after the gala. No one must trace it. The crowd erupted in murmurs and gasps. Board members exchanged horrified looks. Gloria stumbled back a step, eyes wide. Nia spoke firmly into her mic. Officers, arrest her. Now! The security guards didn't hesitate this time. Two of them moved in, seizing Gloria by the wrists. The remote clattered to the floor as she tried to twist free. "You fools!" she screamed. "You think this ends with me? There are others on the board." Her words were cut off as she was escorted out through the side door. Cameras flashed. The entire hall felt electric with relief and disbelief. Then, silence fell as Amara walked back in. Her gown was torn slightly at the hem, her face glistening with sweat, but her posture was unbroken. The crowd parted for her as though the air itself made way. The chairman met her halfway and took her hand, his voice shaking. "You saved us all?" Amara shook her head. "No. We saved what mattered. The truth." She turned to the audience, her voice filling the hall again, calm and resolute. "This night was meant to humiliate me," she said. "Instead, it revealed everything. The greed, the lies, and the strength of those who refuse to bow to them. Let tonight remind every worker, every dreamer in Umoja Global that the company belongs to all of us, not to those who play gods behind curtains." Thunderous applause broke out. People rose to their feet. Some cried. Some chanted her name. And amid the applause, she smiled faintly at Nia, who gave her a tired but triumphant nod from the side. Then Amara leaned slightly toward the camera, broadcasting the event live on the company's official channel, and said gently, "If you've ever seen someone underestimated, only for them to rise higher than anyone imagined, share this story. Tell your friends. And if you believe in second chances, in truth over lies, don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that remind us who we are." She paused just a beat. "And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?" The screen faded to the company logo, clean, shining, reborn. But behind the applause, Nia's earpiece buzzed again. A quiet, unfamiliar voice whispered through static. "Agent Parker, you stopped one. But the other network, the one Gloria mentioned, it's real, and it's still active." Nia froze, glancing toward Amara. "There's more," she murmured under her breath. "Much more." And as the lights dimmed, the camera zoomed out on Amara's calm face, the faint sound of celebration echoing under a rising hum of unseen danger. The applause still thundered through the ballroom, but beneath it, a faint, unshakable tension pulsed like a second heartbeat. The celebration, the clapping, the camera flashes, none of it could drown the look on Nia Parker's face. She wasn't smiling. She was listening. "Repeat that," she whispered into her earpiece. The voice came again, clearer this time, low and urgent. "Agent Parker, this is Special Agent Reese from GBI Cyber Ops. Gloria wasn't bluffing. There's another network, an offshore chain mirroring Umoja's entire financial back end. Someone accessed it while you were dealing with the Gala breach. We traced the ping. It came from Abuja." Nia's stomach dropped. "Abuja? That's not possible. The Lagos hub just reset." "Not Lagos," Reese said. "A private data farm under a shell company tied to... Wait. One of Umoja's subsidiaries. Someone high-level set this up months ago." She turned toward Amara, who was shaking hands with the chairman, unaware that the victory she'd just earned was already being tested. Nia crossed the floor fast, her voice low. "We're not finished." Amara turned, exhausted but steady. "What do you mean?" Nia showed her the live feed on the tablet, lines of code streaming down like a waterfall of light. At the top, a single header blinked. Umoja Network. Mirror backup online. Abuja node active. The chairman stepped closer, reading over their shoulders. I thought the backups were under full audit. They were, Amara said, but only the ones I signed off on. This... She shook her head. This is buried under something else, something I never approved. Nia looked up at her. Can you access it remotely? No. Whoever set this up used an admin key that outranks mine. Who would have that clearance? The chairman asked quietly. Amara met his eyes. Only one person. Someone still on the board. The words cut through the room like a wire snapping under pressure. The applause faded as people noticed the change in mood. The music stopped. Cameras went still. Amara walked to the microphone again, her calm restored, though her voice carried a new edge. Ladies and gentlemen, I need a moment of silence, please. The crowd obeyed. She looked toward the board table, 7 men and women, each shifting uneasily in their seats. Earlier tonight, we faced betrayal from within, but the truth is still unfolding. The system just detected a second network, one meant to steal what's left of this company's integrity. A wave of murmurs rose, frightened. Confused. Who? Someone shouted. Before she could answer, a figure stood slowly at the far end of the board table. He was tall, silver-haired, immaculately dressed. His name was Mr. Gabriel Nwosu, co-founder and longtime silent shareholder of Umoja, once Victor's mentor, once Amara's greatest ally. He smiled, but it wasn't a smile of warmth. It was resignation. Don't bother tracing it, Gabriel said. It's mine. The room gasped. Amara stared at him, disbelief flickering in her eyes. Gabriel, you? He nodded, sighing. I built that backup years ago, after Victor's first scandal. I told myself it was insurance, a safety line for the company in case it fell into the wrong hands. But when Gloria learned about it, she wanted to use it. She convinced me the board would never choose you, that the only way to protect Umoja's name was to keep the power among those who understood business. I agreed. I was wrong. Amara's voice tightened. Then shut it down. He looked at her sadly. I can't. It's on an auto-run cycle. Once it finishes, every internal document, every deal, every piece of data, real and fake, will upload to a global archive. I tried to stop her before I came tonight, but she changed the credentials. Nia stepped closer, her tone measured but sharp. Mr. Nwosu, there must be a manual override. There is, he said quietly. But it's biometric, hers and mine together. Amara turned toward the door where Gloria had been taken. She's under arrest. Then bring her back, Nia said. The chairman hesitated. She's in federal custody by now. Then call them, Amara snapped. If we let that upload complete, Umoja's entire future dies before sunrise. The ballroom was now silent, but for the hum of overhead lights. Amara's phone buzzed, a message from Lagos. Tenny. Madam, we just got a strange signal from Abuja server farm. Should we pull power? Amara typed fast. No. Hold steady. I'll stop it here. Then she turned to Nia. You said it's biometrics, hers and Gabriel's together. Can we replicate one? Nia nodded slowly. If we can find a sample of her print or retina pattern. Something from tonight. Gabriel gestured toward the fallen remote on the floor, the one Gloria had used earlier. That will do. Nia snatched it up and opened a small pouch from her pocket. Inside were compact forensic tools. Prints will still be fresh. She scanned the surface. The tablet chimed. Success. Got her thumb, she said. Now, Mr. Nwosu, I'll need yours. He hesitated, then placed his hand on the scanner. Nia uploaded both patterns to her terminal, patched into the cyberlink still open from the Gala system, and typed in the command. AU-ETH. Combo override. Key set Gloria and Nwosu. Execute. The system paused. Then came a tone. 2 short beeps. Biometric match confirmed, the screen said. Amara exhaled. Is it over? Nia looked up. Not yet. It needs your authorization as CEO to complete the seal. Amara stepped to the console and pressed her hand to the surface. The screens all around the ballroom came alive once more. The blue Umoja logo swirled and solidified. Then a single line appeared. Network mirror terminated. All data secure. Cheers erupted again, this time mixed with tears and laughter. Employees hugged, cameras flashed, reporters whispered into microphones. The storm was finally over. Gabriel approached Amara slowly. I deserve to step down, he said. Everything I built was compromised by fear. You built with trust. The company belongs in your hands. Amara looked at him, the anger in her eyes softening into something more human. It's not about blame, Gabriel. It's about rebuilding the right way. He nodded, tears forming. Then rebuild it, Amara. Make it clean again. The chairman extended his hand toward the crowd. To Ms. Amara Okafor Johnson, our CEO, our courage, our proof that truth still wins. Applause roared through the room, louder than ever, not because of spectacle this time, but because of respect. Amara took a deep breath, then leaned into the mic for the final time that night. Tonight, she said, we learned that power without conscience is poison. But we also learned that no lie can last forever. To everyone watching, here and around the world, thank you for believing in the truth. Umoja means unity, and that's what we will build between Atlanta, Lagos, Abuja, and beyond. Together. She smiled softly. If you've stayed with this story, tell me, have you ever seen someone rise from humiliation to honor? If yes, share their story in the comments. And if you believe that no matter how dark it gets, truth will always find light, like this video, share it and subscribe for more powerful stories. She turned, walked down the stage steps slowly, and stopped beside Nia, who was already pocketing her tablet. Think it's finally over? Nia smiled faintly. For tonight, yes. But if I've learned anything... She glanced toward the big screen where the Umoja logo glowed in clean blue light. Truth always has sequels. Amara chuckled softly, exhaustion written in every breath. Then we'll be ready for the next chapter. They stepped into the hallway together as the music swelled again, soft, steady, hopeful. Outside, dawn was beginning to rise over Atlanta, washing the streets in pale gold. Inside, in the heart of Umoja Global, A new day had begun.